Hey guys, Professor Bruce from B1 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Naperville here. Joining me today is Coach Max with another session of Ask Professor Bruce. All right, Max, what do you have for me
All right,
today?
Professor, our first question is, what would you say are some of the benefits Jiu-Jitsu provides for both kids and adults?
One of the biggest benefits um, that that's across the board for everybody who's enjoying jiu-jitsu is confidence, right? In martial arts, it's very well known that martial arts improves confidence. But I think jiu-jitsu does an even better job of it just because of the close quarters. Like if you can overcome, a human trying to control you and being able to pin you down to the ground. Uh, like I said, I mean, if you're in a situation where you know, hey, this person who may be disrespecting you, maybe he's inside your personal space, which makes you feel in danger, you have that confidence that you can defend yourself uh, because of the training that you've had. And, I'm talking about, the average person trains 2, 3 days a week, has a major advantage over anybody else, even confronting your boss at work, right? With your newfound confidence, your newfound skills, you're able to be more direct with them, communicate better, which in turn may get you a higher salary. And when it comes to kids, I think as a parent of a 2 and a 4-year-old, knowing that my son can defend himself makes me more comfortable as a parent, knowing that even though the teacher may not know how to handle the situation because her lack of experience, my son can at least keep himself safe. So when I do get there and I'm able to talk with the teachers and whatnot, we're able to you know I rather come to my son be looking healthy, than having to come to school to my son all battered because of a bully, you know, being a little blunt. So, I think the confidence building across the board, plus, just keeping yourself disciplined, right? I mean, I trust, you know, if I'm going to be working with somebody outside of jiu-jitsu, I feel more comfort working with somebody that I can tell takes care of themselves because I know if they take care of themselves, they're going to take care of me. All right, what's the next one there, Max?
The next one is, how can I practice my Jiu-Jitsu outside of class, even if I don't have a mat at home?
Great question. You could start out by visiting my personal Instagram page, where we have drills that you can do with, a yoga mat at home, on a rug. You can do it with a training dummy if you have one available to you. But yeah, there's a lot of mobility exercises that you can do at home that will translate into jujitsu. And sometimes, after a hard workout, doing some of these mobility exercises on your own while you're watching TV, folding the laundry, waiting for dinner to be done, this will help your body stay relaxed, stay loose to have a better training session the following day. So start with visiting our Instagram page, YouTube, TikTok, and then from there you can kind of scale and see what works better for you.
So this question, Professor, is a question that I'm sure a lot of the viewers, including myself, want to know the answer to. You personally, how do you evaluate a student's progress and know when he or she is ready for a stripe or belt promotion?
So the best, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, but the more consistent you are to jiu-jitsu class, the more everybody's going to be able to notice your transformation, your consistency, your discipline. It's just like, I put it this way, when you go to work, your manager sees your progress daily, right? Weekly, monthly, however you want to state it. So, and that's how they're able to kind of base, your promotions off of, right? If you've been calling off sick for the past 6 months, almost weekly, like, do you expect to be promoted at that 6 month mark? Probably not, right? And jiu-jitsu is no different. I mean, if you're able to overcome, those obstacles of, making it on the days that you don't feel like coming in, making it in on the days that maybe life was a little bit more difficult on you. Seeing how do you persevere with a challenge on the mat, right? Have it be with a tough training partner, have it be with a tough technique, So it's all about building that person, right? Like I said, here I look past the whole competition aspect of jiu-jitsu, right? What I want to see in my students is this a student that can replicate this instruction, this technique to a newer person, a white belt coming in, right? And that I think is a great source um, of knowledge is showing their level of expertise, which what guess what in turn turns into, stripe promotions, belt promotions, so on and so forth. But it's a combination of a lot of things, right? It's how does a student handle adversity? How does a student handle taking in knowledge? How does a student handle giving out knowledge? How does a student handle their discipline? Um, you know, in martial arts, respect is a big thing. Are they respectful to their training partners? Are they respectful to their instructors? Um, you know, that's some of the main contributors without getting too specific. Each person's a little bit different. One of the biggest things for me is, does this person compare himself to himself? One of the biggest, as an instructor, one thing that is very off-putting is me seeing or hearing students comparing themselves to the next person. Nobody on this planet, guys, is identical or even close to being the same. So why would you compare yourself to your training partner? Everybody here's on a different path. Everybody's here for different reasons, has different goals. The only person that you can compare yourself on the mat is you to you, period.
The fourth one, Professor, is how do you manage to keep your students inspired and motivated with their jiu-jitsu training over a long period of time?
So that's a tough one. I mean, the longer that somebody is involved in jujitsu, and this is most hobbies in general, but the longer somebody's involved in jujitsu, the consistency, the discipline makes my job easier, right? I don't have to reach out to my brown belts the same way I need to reach out to a white belt that's maybe a couple months into jiu-jitsu, right? Just to kind of keep them back on that path. There's activities that I do outside of jiu-jitsu that I consider myself a white belt in, and I know 1 or 2 weeks, I mean, literally just 1 week of me not following through on it can really stalemate, my attendance going forward, right? But thankfully through jiu-jitsu, I have the discipline of knowing, hey, I can't turn back time on the clock, but going forward, if I told myself that, I'm going to do my guitar lesson on these days, like I am going to follow through with it and I am going to get it done, right? So you need to have that strong why, that strong hook. But past that, for younger students, I think or for newer students in jiu-jitsu, it's just emphasizing the reason why they're here, why they joined, what's pushing them to go forward. I kind of not lose sight of their goals, right? Because if you're telling me that you want to be physically fit for your next doctor's visit, but then you decide not to show up, for the next 2-3 weeks, well, that's not going to get us any closer to our goal. So a nice friendly phone call or, conversation emphasizing that a lot of times works out. For some of my students, if you're telling me that you want to make it onto the podium of the next competition, there's a simple recipe. There's a direct correlation with the amount of time that you spend on the mat leading up to that tournament with the chances of you being able to reach the top spot on the podium. So, everybody's motivated a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, I think providing a safe, exciting training environment is what really keeps people motivated and keeps them coming in through our doors. Some of the busiest classes we have throughout the week are because people are here to see their training partners, right? People that they look forward to seeing. So I have many of my students actually change up their schedule to be able to make those sessions throughout the week, it's a snowball effect essentially. So, I do my part, I guess, in motivating people, but I think my student base as well does their just does their bit to keep us progressing, moving forward, and growing.
Final question, Professor, is how do you expect your students to act while they're in class, but also outside of the academy?
Well, in class, it's an easy one. I think, for me, if students are quiet, especially during warm up and technique, makes my job easier, right? It's a lot easier to communicate with a room full of people when there's not chatter in the background. And I think that's not something I think I need to emphasize a lot. I think it kind of comes with the territory to know to be quiet and paying attention. sometimes my little kids or my youth students, I need to remind them. My adults, not so much. But other than that, outside of here, I mean, both youth and adult students, carry yourself in a respectful manner, the way that I think all of us are accustomed to, representing jiu-jitsu in the best way possible. So, that means, and this, we're not bullies, right? So we don't go out of our way trying to show, our girlfriend, our significant other, our skills, because that's something that we leave here in the academy. But like the famous quote says, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have, right? Direct correlation to that is the example of the farmer, um, you know, in the war zone versus the warrior in the farm field. One of them is going to be better adapted to both environments versus one only being very one-sided. So, with that being said, is you conduct yourself with that confidence that a successful person would have, and I think everything else kind of just falls in line. So, you know, represent jujitsu in a positive light. Represent yourself in a positive light, and I think if you're doing that, you're representing the academy very well, and I'm happy to have you as a student. All right, Maxwell. Thank you for this session of Ask Professor Bruce. I think the questions we had today were very insightful, and I hope it's something that, if that was on your mind, it answered some questions. And if you felt like you took anything from this episode today, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. It motivates us to keep making more of this excellent content. And until next time, Professor Bruce from B1 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.